You are tuning into a podcast which inspires aspiring entrepreneurs, athletes, and people to follow their passion. My name is Irshad Ali, an athlete entrepreneur best known for being a professional natural physique athlete and a former world champ. And I'm sitting down with individuals to talk about their stories, the lessons they've learned, and how to make an impact. This is
Stories with Irshad.
So, ladies and gentlemen, on the show today, I have a very, very important and a special guest. He's a professional photographer. I've been really wanting to sit down with this guy and have a talk for a while, and we have worked together in the past, and he's taken some phenomenal photos of me that have gone on to actually become really, really famous. We'll be touching on them today. Please welcome to the show, Shaun, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for having me, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to be in front of the camera. I guess it's the first time for me, so...
Awesome, mate. This is the first official podcast that I'm doing as well.
Oh, no way.
So, it's a new thing for me as well. And, you know, for you, that's why I reached out to you, because obviously we work together and you're doing some awesome things at the moment and you have a good story. So I felt like, I wanted to start with someone like yourself, and hopefully we can inspire and motivate some people together. And of course, get to know a little bit of your story.
Awesome. No, absolutely pleasure to be here, bro. Thank you.
Not a problem, bro. So COVID, what everybody has been talking about, and along with other things that's happening in the world at the moment. What do you think, man? What have you been doing during COVID?
I've been watching a lot of media, learning about myself, my family, just seeing what's next. It's been interesting. I think, taking a step back and looking how fortunate we are in New Zealand to sort of have control over things. And, you talk to a few different people and they think about, jobs and economic growth and family life and disruption and things. And I think it puts us into perspective that we have enough time now to reflect on family and what do we need, what do we don't need. And so it was interesting. I mean, it was a very quick, 2 months?
Just over 2 months, right? 7 or 8 weeks or something in New Zealand that we spent in lockdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're 100% right, man. With us, I think so busy with life and just the hustle and bustle and in and out. You were flying a lot to Australia. Doing your stuff that you do over there with the people that you work with.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I had booked a shoot for Melbourne for Arnold's, and literally...
When was that? What date was that?
I think it was March 15 or 16, I think. And I remember it was crazy. So what happened was I shot Amy Lee on the Monday, and I was supposed to fly on the Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. And literally on the Monday, they announced Melbourne had a lockdown and a state of emergency. So anyone landing into Melbourne had a 2-week quarantine. And obviously I couldn't do that because I was shooting the next day. So I literally cancelled my trip on the Monday night on the phone to Air New Zealand at about 12 a.m., fell asleep, and then woke up at 2 a.m. with them talking to me on the phone, and I had to cancel and get my refund. Literally 6 hours.
So they were all good with the refund?
Yeah, everything was happening so fast. They just said, we'll refund you. And so it was really gutting because I sort of needed that to last me until May and July. So it was interesting because I felt kind of bad not being able to be there. And work with people because I'm very fortunate they've picked me, and then all of a sudden I'm cancelling last minute, which I never do. But at the same time, 2-week quarantine, it's not that I can get away with that being on social media. So it was interesting. Yeah.
So how did obviously the person that you're working with, it was a person that you're taking the photos of, right? So how did they take it? Like they would have worked hard to get in shape for the actual competition or whatever. Was there a competition for the Arnold's? That was the person that was going to be competing?
Yes.
At the show?
So it was Arnold's in Melbourne sports festival, and they run amateur and professional competition there. Some people cancelled last minute flying into Melbourne because they didn't want to be in a quarantine there and back. People were worried that the competition wasn't going to happen, but it did.
Yeah.
But there was so much uncertainty. So for me, it was, was my accommodation going to pull out? Was my accommodation going to cancel? If they won't let me leave Australia, then what does that mean? Do I have to fork out costs for another 2 weeks in Melbourne?
Talking about costs, can you imagine because obviously I compete and I know how much goes into prepping for a competition, paying for all your accommodation and getting to the show, competing. Not only the expense, but the stress of actually getting on the stage for competing. Imagine all those, how many athletes do you reckon compete at the Arnold's usually?
crikey, I don't know the numbers, but would have been a few, and I would have felt, I feel for them not having family in the crowd or their support network,
And they would have booked their accommodation and paid for it and everything as well. And obviously, a lot of these people, well, that's just one person that booked with you, obviously, a show after the show. Imagine all the other athletes that would have pre-booked with other people to do something. Because generally, people like myself do things around the show because that's when you're looking your best.
Yeah, hair and makeup, tanning, everything was thrown into the mix. Real short notice. No one's dealt with that before. I think New Zealand had a lockdown first, and then Australia sort of copied.
Yeah, it was
closing the borders and stuff like that. So yeah.
So with you, it's been really interesting watching you over the years, and I think we had this conversation. I think 2015 when we did that shoot.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you about that time, like, hey, Shaun, do you think you'll ever do this full time? Like, do you think you will ever let go of what you're doing, your 9 to 5, and ever just make this your day-to-day hustle sort of thing? And at that time, I think you're on the fence. But obviously over the years, I think, when was it that you actually let go your 9 to 5? Because you were a good, safe, secure, there was nothing wrong. You're doing a great job at what you were doing in IT, right?
Yeah.
And then what made you take the leap of faith into like getting onto this entrepreneurship sort of photography and just making this your own business sort of thing?
That was an interesting one. So I've always been in IT. I've been in IT for about 10 years, and I resigned end of last year in December before taking a long break for family over Christmas and Chinese New Year to do photography full time in 2020. And
when was Chinese New Year? It was
it was late this year. 2020 was about end of January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I stayed in Malaysia, and I left there just around when COVID was sort of happening around China and stuff. And 2020 was supposed to be my year with photography, and had all these goals planned, on track to smash them. Progressing year after year. So this year it was, the fitness side was really, really good for me. I had, trips to Melbourne in March, Gold Coast in May, Sydney in July, and then there's Auckland competitions, and then Gold Coast in October. And that was going to cover, majority of the year, and then I'd fill some gaps here and there with projects and, maybe
just to top it off.
Yeah, some commercial photography pieces, maybe some automotive and things like that. And so, this year was the year that I wanted to pursue photography full time, give it 110%. Working 9 to 5 for the previous, 9 or so plus years, I felt like I did myself a disservice not being able to throw myself into the deep end and really push myself photography wise.
Yeah. I think that's not just you though. Like, there's a lot of people with a lot of talent, like like yourself, and people might be talented in other things that they do. There might be artists or singing, or even people that are good at painting, drawing, things that can legitimately turn into a business where it gets them out of that working for somebody else. But I think people are always on the fence. It's something about that they just don't believe in themselves, or they feel too scared because people around them don't support them in doing what they want to do. And I feel that people in their minds have set a limitation because of other people around them, because they tell them, no, it won't be possible, because the people advising them, I feel, are the ones that have the limitation in their mind, just because they don't see themselves doing anything. They also don't see other people doing it as well. So when you were jumping into doing your photography yourself, like who I bet you there would have been some people, nah, I don't think it's a good idea. And there would have been some people that were like, yeah, man, go for it, go do it. Like, how did your partner, or, how did they take it when you started talking about it? I'm sure it wasn't an overnight thing, right?
No.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started doing photography was I did a whole year for free, effectively. And that was just building my style, getting my name out there, seeing if I liked it or not. And obviously that had some pushback because I'm spending so much time, learning how to edit and spending time in the gym, networking, taking photos, attending the competitions and all that kind of business development stuff. And, that time gets taken out of somewhere where, might be spending time at home, courtship or whatever. So it was hard at the beginning. And I think I never saw myself to be a photographer at all, and let alone specialize in fitness and bodybuilding. So it sort of just grew organically, which was really, really cool.
What made you choose like in fitness and like, because you could have photographed anything and everything pretty much, right?
Yeah.
But what made you get stuck into the fitness sort of scene and stick through with that and sort of become a specialist in that?
It was funny. Like I bought my first camera when I went to New York, and that was the first holiday where I had a holiday. I worked every single Christmas, and that was the first time I had a break, and I had my first full-time job, and we spent money to go to New York, and I wanted to take photos. So I bought a camera then, and then prior to that, I was playing a lot of computer games, crazy amounts.
So you're a gamer too?
Yeah, tons of games. It was unhealthy. So I sold my computer games, and I bought weights, and I trained at home. I think I was 6 foot at 60 kilos, and it was a funny story. So I was watching TV with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and I went to move her hand out of the way, and I grabbed my own wrist to move out of the way, and I realized, okay, well, if my hand's the same size as my partner's, that's not a good thing. And so
yeah, that's definitely not a good thing.
So I sold my computer game, and I used the money to buy weights, and then so that's how I got into fitness. It was all self-taught, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman back in the day.
What year would this be? Like when?
Oh, crikey, maybe 8 to 10 years ago.
8 to 10 years, so
Yeah.
2009?
Yeah, something like that. Jay Cutler had like one Mr. Olympia, and I think Kai Green was coming up. And
Yeah.
Ronnie Coleman, and so I was really into the fitness scene that end. And then what I did was they came to New Zealand. I brought my camera and took some really cool photos, and the photos came out great. So I was like, okay, well, I couldn't find anyone else doing it in New Zealand.
So you were living in the US?
No, New Zealand.
Oh,
I've
right.
always been
So
in
you
New
went
Zealand.
over there, and then you were coming back with a camera.
Yeah, I bought a camera to go to New York for a holiday. Yeah,
Right,
and then that's how I learned photography. So I was
Right.
taking photos of landscape and fashion and street and stuff, and just exploring. And so that's how I learned the photography side. And then I combined that with my own personal fitness goals, I guess. And that's how I sort of combined the two.
Right, and then ever since then you've been stuck in. So when you're looking up to these, Mr. Olympia, Kai Green, and Jay Cutler coming up, did you ever feel like have you ever competed? Because obviously before this podcast and the whole thing, I tried looking stuff up online about you. You're a man of few words because you let your work do the talking, I guess. So did you ever get on stage, ever compete yourself, or what happened with that?
I don't do too well on the other side of the camera. So I've never competed really. I enjoyed the health aspect, the mindset aspect, the goal setting, following people's journey, hearing about what they've done, what they've achieved. And, I guess that I use that as motivation for myself, which is always really, really cool. So, that keeps me going with the fitness scene. We've been connected for so many years now. It's awesome seeing what you've achieved and, people that you're meeting and stuff like that. So it's been,
I think 6 years now, because I first contacted you in 2014 for a 2015 photo shoot.
Wow.
So over half a decade now.
Oh, I still remember that shoot like yesterday. It was really, really cool. And so, that's how fast time flies.
Yeah. And so did it ever cross your mind like, okay, I'm looking up to Jay Cutler or these people that compete and professionally, and you got into gym, started training, started lifting the weights, and started smashing some supplement, go to your supplement shop, what supplements can I take, this protein, everybody does that. And did you ever say, okay, maybe I can compete too? Did you ever have that thought cross your mind?
I thought about it, but I just couldn't at the time. I think I was studying and work, and much respect to them. I don't think I could have gone the whole way. Am I limited genetically? I don't know. I'll never. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe will I find out? Stay tuned. No, I don't know, but I just enjoyed the whole process of it.
But can you imagine you became New Zealand's most shredded photographer? Imagine that title. You could have that in your Instagram bio. You could have that in even your LinkedIn, about me, the about me section, New Zealand's most shredded photographer.
I don't know. I might think I might be too intimidating at that point. I don't know. No, I haven't thought about it that far. No,
I haven't thought about it that far. But what? You said you were in IT, right? What sort of IT work do you? Because obviously you went to university and you graduated and did all. You've been last 10 years, I guess. You've been working in IT.
Yeah.
So what is it? What is it like? Is it coding or is it? development?
I was probably I did procurement, and then sort of moved into a sales role or BDM or account manager, however you want to spin it.
Yep.
I think what I really enjoyed about that was meeting people, working with people, hearing about what they want, need, problem solving. I'm sort of lucky because I used all that experience into photography, so it gave me a bit of a head start around running a business in photography, understanding the client, what they want, delivering on that. So yeah, that was what I did in IT, and it's not really considered a commodity because you're working with people. People deal with people. People buy from people.
People buy from people.
Mm.
So I mean, I was about to get to that. That the reason why I brought this up is that usually what you do in your work life or whatever it is, and then you try to do something outside of it, I think that reflects on what you do. Like personally for me, I've worked across multiple industries, and generally when I go to an industry to work, I feel it's not the product or the way they do things. It's how fast and how quick you can learn, because things that people did 10 years ago, it's changed so much now. So as long as you have that skill, which is transferable to something else, like you have done here in this case, like you said, people buy from people, right? So your work speaks for itself, but then again, what you've learned as a person working in someone else's business or whatever, I feel that you've applied it really well moving forward. Just like you said, you had a lot of jobs lined up. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but it's not that you can't come back from it. I think everybody suffered, but for you, I think it won't take you as long as someone else that doesn't have that transferable skill from, because you gave IT a good 10 years after university, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think with the whole COVID situation is, it wasn't easy for anybody, but for me, I said, okay, well, what am I going to do to make that experience better for the people that booked in? So I issued refunds, extended shooting times, all that kind of extra stuff, because it wasn't an easy process. And I think what separates someone else from, I guess, your competition is how do you deal in really tough scenarios like that. I was upfront and transparent, and I thought that was really important for me as a business owner. I mean, my name is attached to my business. Yep. So yeah, I felt that was a time, again, it was tricky, but how do I step up from that and, go above and beyond, in a tough scenario like that.
So for the listeners and the viewers that's watching this, when Shaun says that his name is tied to the business, it is on Instagram. You can find him. It is Shaun Poe Photography, and as well as on Facebook, it is Shaun Poe Photography as well. And you'll see he's got a lot of famous people you've actually photographed as well over the years, and you've been to parts of a lot of cities, I guess you can say, different parts of the world doing photography as well, and with the whole group of people and everyone that you photographed over the years, sort of thing, apart from myself and yours truly, who has been like one of the most memorable ones or the famous people that you have felt that damn, I never thought that when I started in 2010, just as a fan of photography, I'd be ever taking photos of people like this. So who's that one person that you can think back to?
Oh, crikey. That's a really good question. I haven't really thought about it too much like that, but a standout moment for me was probably, Callum Von Moger when he came to New Zealand. Shout out to Shane from Nutrition Systems for hooking that up. And I think I saw a video of him on YouTube where he was training up, and obviously he's pretty good looking dude and looks like Arnie and things like that, and massive following, and he came to New Zealand, and it's always good to try and tee up a shoot with them if I could. And their schedules are super packed, so I'm really glad he took the time out for that for me. And he was just a real humble guy, and impressive physique. It's unreal. And then he was sharing some stories around what he was doing, and so yeah, I think the images were really, really cool. A lot of pressure was on.
See if we can find some of those images. And by the way, Ron, shout out to Ron. Ron's on the Ron and Rookie, the support people today, bringing up all the stuff. So we're just looking. We're gonna see if we can find some of those Instagram photos that Shaun's taken of Callum.
It might be on my Facebook page. Probably better there.
Facebook page. Okay, we'll let Ron find them.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're in a photographing situation with such athlete or person of caliber, I think he's gone on to do a movie now as well. I mean, he's had some setbacks, you know, his injuries that he's had, but you know, when you're looking to photograph someone like that has already probably got thousands of photos out there, what are you thinking of at the time of taking those photos or setting up in, because you have to give direction to a certain extent, right? How you want the photos to turn out. So what are you thinking, like, in the terms of when you're taking a photo of anyone, actually, what are you thinking of and how do you want the photo to turn out and how do you get it to turn out that way? Like, what's your process?
Yeah, with Callum, it was, you know, there was a lot of pressure. It was, you know, quite last minute. And obviously he's shot with all the best photographers in the world. And I guess for me at that point is, okay, well, you know, I should have the confidence to back this up. It's nothing new to me. What can I add that's different to what he already has? And at the same time, you know, how can I work to my strengths? And that was sort of the thought process I went into it. So many things can go unplanned. So it's like, you know, how do you deal with all the unplanned stuff? And he was really happy with the photos. I think he used it for his YouTube cover photo or profile photo, and then he's used it in his app, which is really, really cool.
Oh, nice.
So when you skim through his app, you can see some of the photos there. So I thought that was really, really good. And feedback through email was, you know, next time he's available, you know, let's tee up a shoot again. So I took that as really, really good.
That's awesome, man. And you know, with working with Callum, how long was it? Like, because obviously he was short on time, right? To get these photos that we're about to put up over here, what was your time frame? Because obviously I'm assuming you didn't get a lot of time with the dude because he probably had a real stacked schedule when he came to New Zealand.
Yeah, that was interesting because that was the same night I did my Halloween shoot where I did my Disney Princesses series, and so I sort of had to leave my models in a cold car park in Parnell, grab my stuff, pack up my stuff, drive with my assistant to.
So are you saying this shoot wasn't planned? It came up all of a sudden.
It's sort of, but I didn't know the time frame. So it was like, okay, cool. Well, this is the day, but you know, training time, gap, food, and so.
So you're on your way to the gym and you left the models.
Yeah, I had to leave the models in a cold car park, and they all had makeup and stuff. Shoot off all the way to North Shore, into Muscle Gym, photograph Callum, pack up, pack down, drive back, and then finish my Halloween shoot as well. So it was cool. I think it made for a good story.
It was cool, but what about those models? what were they doing the time that you're doing the shoot? So what was the shoot? What was the shoot time duration with Callum?
Maybe 45 minutes.
45 minutes. So
yeah, 45 minutes.
Get in there, set up your lights, and shoot and pack up and
then drive back.
Drive back to finish that shoot that we're doing.
Yeah.
So you said that, you know, with getting into photography, bodybuilding somehow inspired you by looking at Jay Cutler and all these people. What sort of photographers or people that, you know, generally you get inspired to do something by the people that are doing things within that field or category or whatever it is? Who's sort of I don't know photography that well myself, like people, but who's someone that you sort of look up to that take good photos of other people like that you thought that was really, really good?
Yeah. I always admired American photographers, like the quality that they bring, how do they work with the model or athlete and you know, get some emotion from them. Per Bernal was my favorite. He shot for all the magazines back in the day, worked with all the biggest names, you know, had all the covers, and his quality of work is just insane. Like, he was so good. Obviously knew about photography. You know, there was some of them, you know, LG, HFX, Brett Seeley from Seeley Photo. These are the people that I looked up to back then. Toby Harrison was a big one. I remember taking a photo with Toby in Australia for the WBFF, and then as a sort of a selfie with him. And then, you know, 2 or 3 years later, we're sort of working together, and you know, we compete with each other, but we're you know, considered good friends.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really, really cool. But you know,
so how many years would he have you on photography? Like, obviously when you started, you're looking up to him, but now you sort of working together / you know, like competing against each other. So what would you say?
Oh, these guys had, you know, tons of experience, and they did really well in terms of marketing themselves and knowing the right people and how to get it, you know, getting his foot in the door and whatever. But you know, I'd say 5, 6, 7 years ahead of me, minimum, I'd say.
Right. that's a bit of a gap to close in this. And I guess what's happened over the years now, I guess in most of the field anyway, maybe back when they started 5 or 6 years before you, a lot of the technology and camera gear and everything probably wasn't as accessible as it is today. Like nowadays, you can go pick up one of the most basic level sort of cameras, get started. You don't even need a lot of gear to get started at a starting point. Whereas if you look maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a lot more investment up front because, some cameras, the features they have now back then, that would have cost thousands of dollars more. So like because of technology evolving, because of it's readily available to people now, more accessible, I guess that's what's been driving the competition more as well, right? In photography itself.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing how it's sort of changed over time. Back then it was really mastering the art of light, angles, composition. Cameras were quite expensive. Phones didn't really have high-tech cameras back then, and there was a strong focus on quality.
Yeah.
But these days cameras are so good, and more often than not, I'll use my phone camera for personal stuff now, as opposed to bringing my DSLR. It's so heavy and damaged and whatever, that it's shifted from quality into quantity. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, for example. So
Are you on TikTok?
I haven't posted anything.
So you have an account on TikTok.
I do have an account on TikTok.
What do you feel like? Just off topic. What is your thoughts on TikTok? By the way, I'm interested about that.
I like it. I think it's a hard platform because you really do have to become creative, and it's not a photo anymore. It's a video, and so how do you engage more in video? And so that's why I haven't posted anything, because I'm a photographer. I'm not a videographer. Right. I go on there because I see a lot of techniques and people doing things that are really, really cool. So I like it. I think it's really cool.
It's crazy because I've seen some of the behind the scene footage of some of these 15-second TikTok video clips. They put in some hours of prep just to get in that 15 seconds. It's crazy how much work goes into, some of those fancy, flashy TikTok videos you see?
Yeah.
So much work actually goes into just producing that 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah. What they're all doing composition with clothing changes and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I personally don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of them are videoing on their phone, editing in Adobe Premiere or whatever, and then sending it back to their phone and uploading it. And that's crazy. If you're getting paid to do so, then absolutely 100% that's your job. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy media creation platform, and hats off to being able to have a wider audience, because if you become viral on TikTok, then you pretty much can get away with doing anything.
Do you think, like, while we're on the topic of TikTok, like for you, if you took photos and told through a slideshow sort of video thing, and you told a story, 15-second story through photos on a slideshow video, how do you think that would be? You don't have to prep anything. It's just that you're making a good slideshow and then tell the story of whatever it is.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think what do people want to see? Do they want to see my best works? Do they want to see the behind the scenes, or how do I do things? So I'm still trying to work to how I can maximize TikTok. Is the audience that I'm attracting? Will I be able to photograph them in the future or whatever? How does that work with business and shoots and getting my name out there and things? It's interesting. I'm still trying to break that down personally, but I think that I'm probably a bit behind on the TikTok front.
I am too. I mean, I don't even have TikTok downloaded on my phone, to be honest. I just feel the same thing. I think what you said before, it's really true. Like to go viral, it's really hard to get paid off of, when you make a viral video. I think that actually TikTok is under so many lawsuits filed against them because of copyright issues and things. So it's a platform with a lot of gray areas at the moment. And I think if you are putting so much time into it with something that you're not getting like for yourself, whatever it is in return, if you're not going to get bookings from it, if you're not going to get any sort of monetary value from it, I think it's very hard to fees a lot of time going towards putting towards that TikTok thing.
Yeah. I mean, for example, if I happen to have a massive American fan base, which would be awesome, can I service that market in America? And it's quite hard with, obviously now with COVID, but tickets there and back and accommodation stuff. So I didn't work TikTok out to be as strong for me as I did with Instagram.
Yeah. All right, here we go. I think we finally have some Callum photos with Shaun Poe tagged on it. So talk me through this shot. Is this in the gym? Is this with the? Where's this photo taken?
Yeah, that was shot in NZ Muscle Gym on the shore. Shout out to Dion for letting me use that spot. That's a really cool spot, nice high roofs, and he was just getting a pump on, and I think most muscular, he sort of kills that pose, and his left arm is always more dominant. His left arm is crazy massive compared to the right, and so that's the way I framed that photo.
So left arm is the one on that side, and is that why he's showing more of his sort of right arm?
Yeah, it's on the right, but yeah, his left arm was always. I think he told me his left arm was always better. So
right, yeah. That photo over there. If I were to say, I would never guess that that's taken at a gym. That almost looks like a studio with a black background dropped. Is that a lot of that? Did you darken it through? Is it against a black wall or what is that sort of?
It was at night. The shoot was at night,
Oh,
so not much natural light coming through the roof and whatnot, and just getting that graininess effect. It cuts out all that ambient light, so that's why I guess people are working out in the background as well. I didn't want them to come into photo or get distract from the photo, so I sort of made it darker.
I see. That's a very, very good photo, guys. And if you want to go check it out, it's on Shaun Poe Photography, and that's on Facebook. That's on Facebook, the photo, if you want to check out. Photo of Shaun done for Callum. And that's a good photo. With his legs.
Yeah,
out.
he's got a crazy physique. Obviously real natural in front of the camera. And, he wasn't prepping for anything either. So for him to just rock up like that, it's pretty unreal.
I suppose you have to be in that shape, right? If you come into a fitness expo where people are going to expect you to wear like next to nothing, no clothing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Those are some good photos, and we'll check actually these shots that you took of Callum. Were they planned shots, or were you like, okay, we'll do this, we'll just do, or did you already have like something in mind because I remember for our shoot, right, it was like we kind of like, all right, what sort of, what are some examples of some photos that we can have a look at and hopefully recreate that or make it in our own way that we can do it. What about this guy? Like, because obviously you didn't know when you were shooting or how you're going to shoot him. So
yeah, it was, I guess for me at the time, I'm trying to remember, it was a couple of years ago, but I think it was, what are the best features? What content does he have that now he doesn't have, and can I fill those gaps? And do we have enough variety to make a series in case it was published or wanted to use for print or magazine and stuff. So yeah, that sort of just all compiled, and thinking on the fly as you're shooting for that to happen.
I see. Okay, well, with this guy taking the shot, and we'll bring some of my photo on there, one of my famous photos on there too, that, when I thought about that, and when I was thinking about this podcast and looking at the photo that we'll talk about that photo, I realized looking back at the emails that we had backwards and forth, that wasn't a planned shot, because I remembered, like, even though it was in 2015, I remembered I picked up that, I was just literally moving that squat.
Yeah, the hex frame or something.
Hex frame out of the way. And I was like, hey, Shaun, what do you think? The lights weren't even set up for that photo, actually. And I remember they were set up somewhere else, and I picked up that and I was moving out of the way. I'm like, maybe the blue weights would look really cool. And that photo that wasn't planned actually ended up being in a magazine. It actually ended up being on a Balance banner, and it was across. It's on the Balance website.
Oh, cool.
That ended up going. I think Balance ended up. It'll be on your page and my Instagram too. So
yeah, I think. A lot of the time, I try not to overthink too much because, things can just not go to plan. And sort of the best photos, I guess, through experience is, catching something or someone in the middle of something. And so when that happened, it was like, oh, cool, that looks really, really cool. Let's just take that one step further and add our mix to it. And so, yeah, I'm really glad on the way that came out. And I think for me, it was, getting you to do something that was animated, but quite raw, I guess, not too posy, but quite physical.
Yeah, so that was a really, really cool photo. It'll be somewhere down. I think it'll be on a Balance banner that you can find as well.
Yeah, I think they might have been at the fitness expos and stuff.
Yeah, that
like
was at the
yeah.
fitness expo as well and stuff. So moving forward for you, Shaun, now you have, left, you've obviously finished work, like a full-time 9 to 5, you have free schedule to do whatever you want to do. You can be, whatever part of the world you want to be after when the lockdown and everything is lifted, of course. So what does it look like for you now coming out of the lockdown and border opens up, and what do you plan on doing?
I haven't been pushing too hard per se. Obviously, with fitness, all the competitions have sort of been pushed towards the end of the year, so not many people are in shape right now. So at the moment, for me, it's like, okay, well, who needs content? Who needs continuous content to push their brand, their product? And at the same time, also taking time to think of personal projects that I can do to keep creative, keep top of mind, refine the technique, things like that. So that's sort of where my headspace is at. Currently working on my website, just refining my communications with clients and bookings and stuff, and how fast can I respond? How much detail can I provide? So that's where I'm at the moment, where it's just improving the wheels of motion, I guess, just to make it more of a proper business. And then towards the end of the year, get back behind the camera, start shooting a bit more, and start planning that out.
And with your with your photo shoot, you've predominantly been focused on photographing people and athletes, actually. Because I remember asking you this question a while ago. I think when you were doing someone else's shoot at Premier Fitness at the gym, will you go into other avenues of would you go in the commercial sort of thing? Maybe someone wants a product shoot for some other brand or something like that that's not people, like not athletes. What are your thoughts of going down that alley?
So I've sort of shot, I guess, through the learning curve a little bit about everything. So I've done my product stuff back in the day. I've done landscapes. I've done pets. I've done animals. I've done engagements. I haven't done weddings. And so it's like, okay, well, what do I find interesting, and where do my skills sit? How does that timing of the shoot work with life and whatnot? And so I still gravitate back to fitness because it works out really, really well. Following people's journeys, meeting a lot of people, and being really honored to be selected to take their photos. Moving forward, this year, I guess sort of the gap fillers we talked about was, using that people connection into potentially, commercial headshots, LinkedIn, about me, that kind of stuff.
I see, yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I think LinkedIn, you're right. LinkedIn would be really, really good because businesses have people that they need to take photos of, obviously. So I think at the end of the day, I guess what you said is people that you want to be working with, right?
Yeah, and through IT, I guess when I was trying to find new clients through IT, is you're going on a lot of people's websites and all their
stock photos,
all their stock photos or their team photos that are just really outdated. And branding is really important these days. It reflects who you are and what people perceive of you. So getting a good portfolio together, reaching out to them and saying, look, well, I'll come out. Take photos of you and your team. You've got something consistent. You've got something up to date. You've got something professional, and up to you how you want to use that to push your business.
So yeah, exactly what you said in terms of for branding. I think a lot of businesses and people don't realize that even like I guess for a lot of people, like getting just a friend to do the photography in terms of they might just have a camera and be like, hey dude, can you come out and just take some photos? But it's nowhere near like a professional setup or anything like that. And they get somewhat okay photos. But for me personally, it's always been, I'd rather spend money on a photographer that knows what they're doing, that has some body of work to show for, and get the photos done. Because I don't think people realize that the photos that they obviously take is going to be there forever. And if you're an athlete, listening or watching, find yourself a really, really good photographer like Shaun, because these photos, all your hard work that you put into getting ready for a competition, they stay with you forever, and you may not be able to get into that shape again because you may not compete again. Because a lot of people that compete, obviously, sometimes never compete again. And even businesses, it reflects badly on a photo that's not done nicely or not not done nicely. It's not showcasing their business is not showcasing the right way possible. And you pay, and I guess that's what you sort of, get for what you pay. And I remember clearly back to when I was doing my photo shoot with you, I said, dude, what do you charge? Cool, let's do it.
It's an interesting battle, I guess, a lot of people face is around how do you justify getting a photographer? What's the work involved? For me, my mindset's always, okay, what value can I add? How far can I push someone to get a photo that they may just get with a friend or whatever? So in terms of bringing that out, it might not be cheap, but again, the time involved, setting that up, research, retouching, all that stuff, and you're right, it's images that sort of stick with you throughout time. For example, I remember doing a lot of shoots in the past, and a lot of the people I photographed now have babies and children and whatever, and so they're able to reflect and say, hey, look, I achieved this back in the day, and they spent all the effort working towards that. And so I guess a lot of them have used it as a reward to themselves to document that journey. And same with companies and branding. It's, what you put in is what you get out, and I guess you get what you pay for in the end.
I tell these, because obviously I do digital marketing, I tell these to businesses and company and directors and business owners day in, day out. When I go and have a look on their website, if I'm doing their marketing and anything like that, personalized photography of your own business and own people, and it reflects the personality of the business, personality of the people that work within the company, and also it doesn't look like a template that's just been used. And it really, I feel as a consumer or a person that's looking to do business with business, they want to know who they're working with and who they're dealing with. And this is where a good set of photos that reflects your business really, really in the true light possible, I think it goes a long way in for that business to acquire the business, because it builds that trust. And there are some companies that do it really, really well in terms of they really showcase their people, and those are the people that you generally see other people that are winning.
Yeah, I guess how do I bring that back into fitness photography? Is personal trainers, for example, leading the charge. Their face is their brand, effectively, and so you work so hard to achieve the best possible condition, and then not work to your strengths with another photographer who may not understand lighting or angles and so forth, and so you kind of cut yourself short. It's an interesting one. One of the battles constantly for me is talking through that and I guess showcasing that with photos. I'm really lucky that I have a very strong referral network and branding that I've sort of created over 5 or 6, 7 years. And so now, most people don't know what I look like, which I kind of enjoy. But when I introduce myself, it's quite nice. It's like, oh, okay, well that makes a connection, because they might have seen a photo somewhere and they go, oh, okay, it might link back. And so, for myself, I'm only showcasing my photos as a representation of who I am and the work that I put out.
And the work that you put out is awesome. I cannot stress enough on how good your photos are in terms of the quality. I think the style is unique. Before seeing your photos, I think there's a thing in New Zealand specifically that I know of, like when someone sees a photo, oh yeah, that's a Shaun photo. It's like a signature. Yeah, that's a Shaun photo. Like people know that's okay. Yeah, that's done by Shaun.
That's taken time to build up, and I can't take all the credit for that, because I've pulled bits and pieces from other photographers overseas and locally and whatnot. But it's finding what I'm comfortable with, what the client is comfortable with, and what's also different, so that each person has a different set of photos that I can't reproduce a set for someone else. If someone says, hey, come and do this shoot that you did for so and so, it will be impossible for me to replicate. So again, it's just understanding the strengths for that. But yeah, I'm glad I have my own style and technique now. It's consistent. Sometimes I might be quite bored of it, but again, have I peaked? I think I might peak maybe in the next 5 to 10 years.
Do you reckon? No, I don't think so. I think as far as you keep pushing the creativity, innovation, and coming up with new concepts and ideas, which I see you do, Halloween shoots, Christmas shoots, all the things that you've been doing. I think that's no one calls up people or puts up a post, hey, look, do you guys want to work on a project? It's free. You put up a lot of your time and your equipment and everything, and then you go ahead and do the shoots with people that, whether it be in groups or individuals, and they can take that photo away, and it's a project that you've done because you're obviously passionate about what you do.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Again, a personal battle is saying, okay, well, it's good to be consistent, but is it the same? So for me, it's I always think, cool, I'm delivering this consistent output. So when someone books, they go, okay, well, this is what I'll receive, and there's no dramas around what you're getting and what you're not getting. But at the same time, I'm trying to take time to be more creative and understand what else can I do with photography, come up with these cool concepts. It'll be really cool to be, one of the top creators, I guess, in Australasia. But time will tell. That's something I'm working on. So hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years.
That's awesome, man. I feel that, if COVID didn't happen, this year would have launched really, really well, because you've obviously let go of your 9 to 5. You saw enough opportunity there and you believed in yourself. And I guess your support system around you is really good as well. And if this didn't happen, you would have had the most awesome launch to do what you wanted to do, not just in New Zealand, I think like in other countries as well, because, and so like with doing what you do, what are the like equipment, like, a lot of Sony fans, Canon fans, and whatever, Panasonic or whatever it might be, what are the sort of equipment that you use and the software that you use to edit and do what you do?
Yeah, I love my toys. So
I do too. Technology's good, eh? Like, I love it.
Technology is really, really good. Through the 7 to 10 years I started taking photos, I've gone through about 9 cameras, and I use Canon. And the only reason I use Canon because my friend worked at Canon and he got me a real good deal at Canon. So that's why I've been Canon. And I sort of grew into each camera. So I started off with the basic one. I understood that, and then as environment changes and you understand that, you move on to the next one and so forth. And so I've currently using the 5D Mark III, which has been a crazy workhorse for the last 3 years, hasn't faltered, and it puts out everything that I need it to put out. And yeah, you can go through all this gear, all this technology, but I don't want it for me to take away from taking a photo. So I took a step back from understanding technology so much and as to understanding light and people and emotion and feeling and technique. So as much as I love technology, I sort of not spent anything on it because I don't want to be too gear obsessed.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those, crazy viral videos that you see of people that making content, whether it be video or photo and stuff like that. And you'll see these guys, they use the simplest equipment. It's like next to nothing, minimal. I think phones in most cases. And they've been able to make like feature films, and they've been able to take the awesome photos that you never would know it unless they showed you the behind the scenes. The kind of ones I'm talking about. They scroll through and you see like, oh, that's how they did it,
Yeah, absolutely. Phones, for example, they're so powerful, slow-mo and whatnot. And that's what I like is, seeing people get creative around that. You don't need the best gear. You don't need all the compute power and all that kind of stuff. People doing things in front of you, and just, I guess, pushing yourself with being creative. Technology will take a step back, and I think creativity is what will set someone up above someone else.
Yeah. And with the technology, while we're on it, what do you use to like put the photos together, sort of thing? I think Photoshop, Adobe is what everybody uses. Is that sort of where you are too?
So yeah, I started off using Lightroom, and it was really good in terms of understanding, basic adjustments and what does what, and then I progressed into Photoshop because I needed to. I know I had to use Photoshop, and so that was a whole learning process in itself, all self-taught. And so as you kind of push yourself, you got to edit things, and you got to edit things faster, and you got to know what to do. But now these days I use Lightroom as my cataloging, as my thumbnails, as my workflow management, and then use Photoshop to give me more control to the photo, more adjustments. If I make any mistakes, I can reverse those. And yeah, just saving those gives me a better format. So yeah, so I now use Lightroom for workflow and Photoshop for one-on-one photos.
So Photoshop, and what, like when you do Photoshop, what is it that you sort of do within Photoshop for people? Is it like, I guess more the light sort of work is done in Lightroom, right? To either enhance the lights of the photos, or, you know, how to get those literally blurry or dark. You know, sometimes you get that depth of field blur, and sometimes you can put that in post as well. I guess that's in Photoshop, right? That you would be doing that.
You can put that in post. I generally don't.
So you don't add those.
No,
so it's through camera.
Yeah, for me, I've always had the I guess ethic to get it right in camera.
Yep.
Because if you don't get it right in camera, you're shooting 300 frames. I just could not fathom editing 300 individual frames. So always best to get it right in camera for me, and then in minor tweaks around, you know, removing distractions, fixing up skin, hair, anything in the background, removing light stands, for example, things like that. And yeah, my goal is always not to overly do an image and just try and keep it as natural as possible.
I suppose you'd be removing some people too, right? Because then sometimes you're shooting in gyms and stuff, you'd remove some people from the background.
Yeah. On the worst extent, yeah. I try and get that right in camera by just waiting for the person to move out of the frame.
Yeah, it's always easier to do that, isn't it?
Yeah. 20 seconds in front of the camera versus 2 hours in Photoshop.
Yeah, I was never good at Photoshop either. You know, you can tell by my thumbnails on Facebook and YouTube. It's not good. And what keeps you motivated, man? You know, there's a lot of work. Like, you know, you get a book. You obviously got to get the client first, which comes through referral for you. Then you got to set up a time to make sure their time matches with your time. Then you got to actually do the work itself, and then there's the post work, and then you got to make sure they deliver the photos too. So doing that process over and over again, what is it that you think of and it keeps you motivated? So it's not like you can watch them, like, you know, when you go to the gym, it's not like you can listen to this motivational music or someone pumping iron and you get pumped yourself. Like, is there such a thing for photographers that you watch people take photos and it's like, I'm pumped now?
I think for me, how I keep motivated is just understanding why I do it, and you know, I feel very fortunate when every time someone books in with me, because it's not easy choosing a photographer, and it's definitely not easy standing in front of a camera. So that keeps me grounded. And so, you know, they pay for a service, and it happens to be a premium service. And so, you know, how can I make that experience as easy for them? You know, they're busy, they have a really busy schedule. So how do I streamline that for them? And so, yeah, I guess I just try and make it as easy as possible, from, you know, taking the photos, you know, shortlisting the photos, editing the photos, and, you know, taking any feedback, or, you know, providing any recommendations through experience and things like that.
That's, you know, when you said making it easy, when the first time I did a photo shoot with you, oh, there it is, that photo that we were talking about. The first time I did that photo shoot with you, that photo over there, by the way, it's not a planned, like, wasn't on our shot list. I was literally moving that, and then it was like, yo, Shaun, what do you think? He's like, oh, yeah, stand like this. I'm like, okay. And then that's when we took the photo, and then went on to be the main photo of that photo shoot, to be honest. As I said, this is the one that featured in magazines. This is the one that, you know, went places, I guess, and it's everywhere. This is the most famous photo. And that was, I think I re-uploaded that. So that's only shows 29 weeks ago, but it's more than that photo there. But yeah, I felt easy. I felt like we had done work together. I felt like, you know, that we had known, even though I think prior to this, I think I'd only seen you do, I think I only had seen your work and seen you at the gym to do the shoot. And then I stopped you over to say, hey, can I do a shoot with you? And I think that's how we just got started.
Yeah. That's typically a really, really cool way. And just, you know, for me, because I don't really push myself online as much, was, I guess, sharing about who I am, and is this person approachable, and is he easy to deal with? So I always keep that in the back of my mind when working with people. It's like I said, it's really not easy to stand in front of the camera and have someone tell you what to do, and more often than not wear very much clothing. So it's always been good, and just refining my craft, I guess. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I remember this photo here was literally right next to the toilet. So
Oh yeah, back then the toilet was in the other room where Premier Fitness is. I don't
yeah,
think that room is there anymore. It's been removed.
correct. Yeah.
But that white background is of that toilet wall. Yes, it is. You're right.
So people won't know that, but if we can pull this kind of content standing next to a toilet wall, that that means something.
That's great. Actually, this photo, I remember walking into a shoot that you were doing, and you're working with another athlete, and you were trying to recreate sort of something like this with them. Wasn't this was one of the photos they wanted to do?
Yes,
I think.
yeah. I don't think I could have got it as refined as that, but yeah, a lot of people pull inspiration from previous shoots and stuff like that, which is always really really cool. Shows that they're planned and worked hard towards it and sort of prepared, which is really cool. And it always feels good when they're pulling photos of yourself and people that are local to replicate.
Yeah, I think this actually, now that I think about it, Balance did use this photo to put up in House 2000 on the shelves initially. As much as I like this photo, I think it's really really cool and everything. But then the whole thing was they also didn't put my name on the photo. It was I think these were few of the photos that they obviously bought the rights to. I think there was a few photos they did, and this was one of them actually. And then I wasn't quite happy with that. They used the photo, then they switched it to the other one. Yeah, I remember now. But this is a good photo as well. Yeah. This is a very very good photo.
It was good. Yeah.
So with when you're taking a photo, right, of something, obviously people have something that they want to get out and say something. What is it that you're trying to say with your photos, and how do you try obviously communicate that to as a photographer to people? So like I suppose you can look at art, right? For example, people when they're doing art, and then they can look at 10 people look at the same painting and be like, oh yeah, I can see what the artist is trying to say. And sometimes it splashes of paint on a piece of canvas, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, I know what this artist is meaning. He's feeling this emotion and that. And so what is it that how do you sort of deliver emotion through your photography of what's happening?
I guess goes back for me is what you're saying is what do I try and achieve? So I specialize in fitness, and so what does fitness mean to me, and what does fitness mean to the person I'm photographing? So for me, it's around creating something strong. A lot of people have overcome a lot of personal obstacles to get where they are and do what they do. So how do I portray that? So typically, maybe I'll try something like as a heroic pose or angle, and then in a way that pushes them to showcase their strengths, and then combine that with everything that's around them, the environment, composition, lighting, and then all that feed that into the camera to make the photo. So for me, it's who am I working with and how comfortable they are and what they're going to use the photos for and what story they're trying to tell. Right.
So it's up to the person, and then you try bring that story to life, whatever they're trying to obviously accomplish within the photos.
Yeah.
So your visions kind of meet at a point, and that's when you capture on camera to tell that.
Yeah. That's always my goal. A lot of people take photos for Christmas cards.
Christmas cards.
Yeah. They
of themselves.
Yeah. I've had some of those. A lot of them have lost weight through 20
right.
25 weeks a year. Want to showcase. So it's the first time they've been on camera. Obviously, I'm not going to get them to do anything crazy, but get them feeling comfortable in front of the camera, and so that they can show their kids what they've done and what they've been proud of. In terms of quality, it's can I produce images that are magazine standard, print standard? So if they wanted to use it for print or whatever, or if they want to show friends and family, this is what they've done. The quality's there, so that's also one of the, foundations that I try and deliver on.
I see. And so now, moving forward for you, working with athletes, wanting to work with some businesses that you feel that is your interest, predominantly that showcases a lot of people, and what's that sort of add-on that you want to do as well? So athletes obviously will always be your core thing from what I can understand. Then businesses and people that are trying to showcase their people, what's something else that you would want to do? I mean, it doesn't even have to be photography, because now photography has become your main thing. what becomes your side hustle? Because at a point, IT was your main thing that you did, sort of most of your time, and photography was your side hustle. So what's your side hustle now?
Funny enough, I've been getting into furniture. So
Furniture.
secondhand furniture, and I guess
So this is flipping them or
yeah,
like,
I flip a bit of furniture here and
Yeah.
there, just because I like it. The way that it was built, old school. I'm usually dealing with like antique stuff. Keeps me busy, keeps me creative, and I have an uneven advantage because I'm using my photography to take really nice photos of old stuff and flipping them for a bit more. So that's cool.
Do
And
you think it works? Like you take like something you picked up really cheap and you cleaned it up, made it look nice and whatever, and took some nice photos of them, made them look really nice, and they sell for more.
Yeah, 100%. It's like anyone that's trying to sell their car, right? So would you buy a car if someone hasn't, taken the
Photos and
photos of the detail of the car, pushing it to its best. So for me, I'm trying to see where photography fits around, adding that value. So I did talk about trying to get into automotive photography and working with some of the larger brands like maybe Lambo, Porsche, Ferrari, Mercedes, Continental, that kind of stuff, and taking photos of their cars, and letting them use it for ads, social media, selling their cars, for example. So that's one of the things I had in the pipeline. Obviously, with COVID, that sort of slowed down.
Yeah.
But I'll try and push for that towards the end of the year as well. I'll build that portfolio up, and then commercial real estate was one too. I was thinking about maybe drones, trying to get into drones and get into video.
I think commercial real estate is a huge market at the moment, especially with the interest rates being at all-time low. So first-time home buyers, investors, and whoever they might be, everyone's trying to buy houses because, interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. So a lot of houses actually are coming up for listing. And also at the same time, you know how generally people would travel to New Zealand and they would come and rent out an Airbnb, or people that come to New Zealand to just stay in the short-term accommodations. Now, since people haven't been traveling much, all these houses have been doing nothing pretty much for the last 3 months. So there's two things the owners are doing. They're either taking those houses off Airbnb because obviously there's no one's traveling to New Zealand, so they no longer can be hired. Either they get it property maintenance work done on it to get it up to standard, then they put it on rent, or for the people that can't have to afford the rent, because obviously when you do an Airbnb you get paid more, right? People are selling them off, and then they need nice photos of it to showcase it in a nice way so they can get the most for their house at the moment. So I feel there's this huge opportunity in property maintenance, real estate as well, and as well as property management, because for the people that don't need as much income from the houses, they can afford to put that on rent and get that $650, $700 a week, whereas you'll be getting $200 a night, and times that by 7, that's $1,400 a week.
Yeah, Airbnb's always been really, really good with that. And if you've ever booked an Airbnb, what makes someone stand out as opposed to someone else? A lot of the people that are hosting on Airbnb take cell phone photos and things like that. And just having used it myself, I tend to shy away because I don't feel like it's the correct representation of the space that I'm in.
Yeah.
Does the owner care about the place? I can't tell with an iPhone photo, for example. It's all dark
and I guess you're a photographer too, so you would know like it's a phone photo. You'd know straight away. It's a phone photo, and exactly what you said about houses or staying at Airbnb. I feel, going back to the whole business aspect to it, if a business is showcased in the right light, people tend to want to do business with them. They will buy that same product or same car or same whatever it is if it's taken, just like what you do with the furniture. You can sell the same product 2 different ways. You get 2 different prices depending on how you showcase it with photos.
Yeah, I mean, cars, houses, fitness, for example, real estate, anything that is, I guess, people look at, first perceptions, for example, goes a long way. So, yeah, I still think there's going to be a growth for photography. There's a lot of new photographers coming up to speed, a lot of YouTube tutorials. So the competition's always going to be there. But again, how do people deal with the competition, and how do they always, I guess, reinvent themselves?
Yeah. Have you ever thought of doing video though? Because I guess, a lot of people do photos and videos. What do you think about videos?
I've steered away from video because didn't have the funds to buy, stabilizers, all the lenses, camera. It's a new set of kit, I find.
Agreed. Yeah.
And learning to edit, I think, would be a real tough one for me to kind of get my head around. I haven't sat down and really committed myself to learning how to edit video, but I feel it's a completely separate beast. Storage requirements go up, PC compute power goes up, and I just don't have that kind of infrastructure at the moment. So it's something I want to dive into, but maybe when technology becomes a bit more accessible and software becomes a lot easier to use, then
I mean, you could, the more your Shaun Poe photography brand itself grows, once you get it to a stage, I guess you can make an extension to that, Shaun Poe videography, and where you can actually get people that you work with that do that, what you just said that, you're trying to steer away from. Because, obviously, I guess for every business and like yourself, you would eventually evolve into something that is not just one thing.
Yeah, I guess, where I want to take my brand would be, what I thought of was, having a talent agency where, I've photographed a lot of people, got all the connections, got the portfolio, how can I push that to, people that are looking for talent, businesses, looking for content, things like that. Video, I'm looking for someone to partner with on video. I don't know what the uptake is on video, so if I offer photos and then also offer video, I'm not entirely sure what that uptake may be.
So anyone that's looking or looking to do video, contact Shaun, because you never know, you might be able to team up with them, or people that purely just might want to work with you, and you can offer them behind the scenes shot. Have you thought about that actually? People that want to, do photos with you, but at the same time that they want a video to sort of somewhat feel like a star, to show their behind the scenes shoot. I think some photographers do offer that, right?
Yeah. A lot of people do as a side thing, where it's kind of like a behind the scenes.
Yeah, that thing.
What's involved in the experience? What kind of prep is involved? Are they having fun, and what makes a photo? I think that's always really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think Instagram 30-second timer or whatever. A lot of people are shooting video for that, which is good to see. Again, I don't know if that's something people will opt for.
Yeah, like I mean, in terms of more the talent, right? They want that behind the scenes shoot to make them look like they're getting photographed by the Shaun Poe. And it's behind the scene that they're getting the highlight reel almost of the photo shoot itself, but it's more so that the talent wants to put that they got this photo shoot done, and when they get the photo work, this is the photos. Because I remember when I did the photo shoot with you, I kind of did that same thing too. I got someone with a camera just to cover the whole photo, and then we did little talk as well after the photo shoot. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember now. Actually, it's come back to me. Yeah.
Actually, I think it's on my YouTube channel, Ron. If you bring that up, there's a Shaun Poe photography. I think it was. I was like a quick thing, and then we did like a quick chat. We did after the show anyway. After the shoot, we did that little chat.
Yeah.
So, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, no, I think it was good. I think it goes back to memories. What was involved.
Yep.
What did you do, and how did it happen? I think just even if you're taking the video and you're saving it and reflecting on it in 5, 10 years, 10 years time or whatever, I think it's always good to have. And I guess you invest so much into that. Why not have that remembrance? So I definitely recommend people showcase it, video it, keep that content.
And with the whole thing, moving forward, what you said about working in property and working in, with real estate agents and people like that, I think that's there's a huge huge space where you can actually not only make a good income, but also I guess you position yourself as you're obviously not just any photographer, and you're not a cheap photographer, So with these, like how you said, you want to work with Lambos and Ferraris and things like that, with these high-end properties, maybe you can be the guy that photographs 1 mil plus sort of properties. What do you think about that?
That's a good idea. I haven't thought about specifically targeting those properties per se. I think it would probably require me to network a bit more, or find out who has those properties that I can potentially test or use as a portfolio. Ideally, it'd be nice to shoot out of them. That'd be really, really cool. But yeah, I think that's still planning in the mix. Still trying to network with the right people for that, and obviously back myself up in terms of the quality that they're going to receive and get.
Nice. Well, before we wrap this up, Shaun, I really want to thank you for coming onto, obviously onto the first episode that's going to be launching Wednesday, 24th of June, 2020. It's going to be coming up. I'm going to be posting it up, and, you'll see it. You'll share it with people. I just want to get your view on what did you think about when I first contacted you to come on the show, sort of thing. Like, how did you feel about it? And like, because obviously I haven't seen any of your podcasts. Have you done a podcast with anyone before?
I've been asked, but I think timetables didn't really line up. But I follow them and I watch them, and I think there's really good value to be had from them.
Yeah.
Gary Vee, Joe Rogan, all that kind of stuff, and I think it's really, really good for people to, I guess, have a listen, hear some stories, and who's the person behind the camera, or how is someone good at doing what they do, and an hour listening to a podcast might save you weeks into finding out for yourself. So I was really flattered to be asked to do a podcast. I generally don't like the way I sound or the way I look in front of the camera. So
I think from what I can hear, you sound really, really good, which is good. And like, I'm really privileged actually to have you here. And, a lot of people, like, you've obviously put up a Sunday, for an hour to come out here, which I really, really appreciate you doing that. Just before we wrap this up, would you like to give a shout out to anyone or anything? And just give us a little insight on what you plan on doing next when you come out of sort of, over the next month, say, what do you plan on doing? You want people to reach out? Are you going to be catching up on the work that you left, or what's happening with that?
Yeah, so for me, next steps would be sort of planning for the rest of my year, looking to engage with people that want to create content, different content, high quality content. So, I want to be approachable, so feel free to contact me on my social media platforms or my mobile directly, all that kind of stuff. Plan for 2021. And reflect on what I've achieved, I guess, this year, and what can I bring different. WBFF is in November in the Gold Coast. Hopefully the Trans-Tasman bubble opens up. Fingers crossed. I really need that to open. But, looking to nail that. And I think I'm sitting maybe 19 weeks out, and I'm looking pretty booked out, which is always really flattering. To know that I'm booked out this far early, and shout out to you for hosting me and doing what you do. I know I love your work, and
thanks, man, I appreciate it.
Seeing what you put out there and how you engage people, and I guess the solid relationships you create. So that's always motivating for me to take on board. And yeah, I think New Zealand is a beautiful place to be, and I think this is a growing market, and it's always good to give back. So feel free to reach out to me if anyone's got any questions, or want to talk a bit more about my history or what I've done. Feel free to reach out.
Awesome, man. Well, appreciate it. And that's it, guys. Well, that's Shaun Poe for you. And most importantly, check out his work. Go look at what he's done. As I said, his links, wherever might be below. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Music, I'll try and include them in the description so you can check his work out. I just want to thank him for coming on the show and wish him all the best. Thanks, Shaun.
Thank you. Thanks, team.